My name is Lisa. I'm 31. I work in finance, I keep to myself, and I used to believe that being kind meant people would treat you right. But life and one woman proved me wrong. Before I tell you what I did, how I turned a public betrayal into a private masterclass in revenge. Make sure you subscribe, smash that like button, and drop a comment below telling me, what's the coldest way to ruin someone without ever raising your voice? Because this is how I did it. It was November 2023. I'd just landed the biggest client of my career. I was finally getting the promotion I'd worked years for. Everything in my life was clicking into place. Until it wasn't. 3 days. That's how long she disappeared. No texts. No calls. No excuse. Just silence. When she finally came back around, I found out. Not from her, of course, but from whispers in the office. She had cheated. Not with some stranger. With a married man. One who worked in our building. One whose wife also happened to be a senior executive in HR. Yes. Really. This wasn't just betrayal. It was stupidity weaponized. The man left her within weeks. His wife forgave him, or at least pretended to. And he transferred to another city before the gossip could catch up. But her? She stayed. And here's the thing. She never apologized. Not once. Not to me. Not to his wife. Not even to herself. Instead, she strutted into work like nothing happened. Same smug little smirk. Same tight white blouse. Same perfume. Like the office was her stage, and we were all extras in her performance. But here's the part that still shocks people. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't confront her. I smiled. Because while she was celebrating what she thought was a power move, I was already planning my checkmate. See, I'm not the kind of woman who thrives on drama. But I do thrive on control. And the moment I saw her sitting at her desk again like nothing had happened, I made a decision. She would regret every second she spent thinking I was weak. But I wouldn't come at her head on. She would never see it coming. No, what I wanted was psychological. I wanted her to feel small. Invisible. Paranoid. I wanted to walk into that office every day with a smile, while slowly turning her confident little world into a war zone. And the best part? I'd do it without breaking a single company rule. Because unlike her, I know how to play the long game. You want to know the first thing I did? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I greeted her with the same energy I gave the intern. I didn't bring up the affair. I didn't throw shade. I didn't mention how everyone was talking about her. I acted like she didn't matter. Because to people like her, silence is the loudest insult. She started trying to get reactions. Snide comments in meetings. Fake laughing when the guy next to her told a joke. One time she dropped a folder next to my desk and said, "Oops, hope I didn't distract you." I smiled. Picked it up. Handed it back. Said nothing. That's when I knew she was crumbling. But trust me, that was just the beginning. What came next was, well, let's just say it was surgical. She thought she got away with it. But the truth is, she had already lost. Stick around for the next chapter, where I make my first calculated move. And no, it's not petty. It's brilliant. Subscribe now so you don't miss it. And drop a comment if you've ever wanted to burn someone down without lighting a single match. Because that's what this is. The burn you never see coming.
By the time Monday morning hit, it was just Lisa Aimore. It was Lisa 2.0, rebuilt from the ruins, reborn with a vengeance. Walking into the office that day, I held my chin high, hairs sharper than my ASLS, and my eyes locked on hers. Vanessa. There sat at the corner desk like nothing had happened. No trace of guilt, not even a touch of recognition. Just tipping away, a latte in hand, like he didn't destroy the man who only love or embarrass me across the entire branch. The man, by the way, was long gone, back with his wife, back in another city, like some coward who set after and ran. But he stayed. And so did No, you might think I came back to confront her. To scream. To demand apologies or maybe throw a stapler across the bullpen. But nah. That would make her the center of the show. And Lisa doesn't hand out free attention. No, I had a smarter plan. The slow drip kind. The kind that hollows out your world day by day until you're the one wondering if the walls are closing in. So I started with silence. Not avoidance, not aggression. Silence. I greeted everyone. I laughed in meetings. I cracked jokes with Kevin from finance and even brought in muffins for her. But Vanessa. I looked toward her. Like she wasn't even there. Not a hello, not a head nod. If she handed me a report, I'd thank the table it was sitting on. If she spoke in a group setting, I'd wait for someone else to repeat it before reacting. And at first, she didn't care. She smirked. Thought she'd won. Like my silence was weakness. But then I started face TVO. You say Vanessa had a reputation. Alias slightly lat. Alias missing a comma in client emails. Alias taking credit for others' work in team projects, which our boss Jeff was too close to notice. But me. I noticed. And I took notes. Literal notes. I kept a spreadsheet. Every mistake. Every missed call. Every exaggerated claim. I kept it clean. Time. Linked to client IDs and project numbers. My own personal symphony of pity. Then came the wishes. Not from me, of course. I'd never stoop so low. But office gossip is a fire you don't need to light if you simply fan it the right way. I'd ask innocent questions. Hey, did Vanessa submit the revised client dodge, knowing full well she hadn't? Or just only mention in the kitchen that I had to read a spreadsheet that mysteriously got deleted. But I'm sure it was intentional. Oh, and the best part. I started praising her. Lude. Sarcastic, but just under the radar. Wow, Vanessa, only 15 minutes late today. You're improving. Look at this email, only TVO typos. You're killing it. I smiled sweetly. Her could touch it. And slowly, it started to eat at her. She began arguing earlier. Overcompensating. Asking to be JJD on everything. Trying to sniff out what I was up to. But I gave her nothing. Just that same calm simile. Just Lisa 2.0, being her best self. Until she cracked. It was a Thursday. Mid-month. Rainy. I'd just gotten out of a client call that went particularly well. Everyone was thrilled, and my name was all over the winds. I walked past her desk, smiling, and she just muttered under her breath, "Fuck ass bitch." Boom. She said it loud enough for Trina from marketing to her. And Trina? She lives for drama. Within an hour, it was in her lap. Vanessa was called in. She tried to deny it. Tried to twist it. Claim I was bullying her, gaslighting her. Said I was making her work environment toxic. So her called me in. And I'll never forget their face when I pulled out my spreadsheet. Oh, I said sweetly, I didn't realize Vanessa felt targeted. I've actually been documenting everything so, ve can improve team dynamics. Tire waves. On. The. Floor. I slid them copies. I showed them how her mistakes cost the team time, how her delays pushed back deliverables. All presented with pastel-colored tabs and even a cover sheet. Professional. Unsakable. Do you note that? Took notes. Vanessa left that meeting red-flagged and silent. But that was just the beginning. I started volunteering for the projects she wanted. Made sure to shine in everyone. I networked with higher-ups, got on to cross-department initiatives. Every time she tried to speak up in a meeting, I did politically correct her or expand on her point with better data. She started messing up more. Overthinking. And every time she stumbled, I didn't laugh. I didn't smirk. I just took notes. Until one day, she was reassigned to a different floor. Away from our team. Away from the projects she wanted. I didn't ask WHA. I just bought myself a celebratory coffee, walked to my desk, and opened a new tab. Face Tihre, I typed. Then I smiled. Because revenge isn't just about payback. It's about becoming the storm they never saw coming.
The next Monday morning, I stepped into the office with a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. Lisa, the version of me that had once believed in second chances and forgiving cheaters, was long gone. What walked through those glass doors now was someone sharper, quieter, smarter. The office was my stage now, and every movement from here on out was scripted. I knew Elena would be there, fresh off the weekend, pretending like her life wasn't unraveling one thread at a time. I could already hear her high-pitched laugh echoing from the break room, no doubt sharing another overly personal story to people who didn't ask. It had been her trademark. Too loud, too comfortable, too oblivious. But now, I had every intention of unmaking her comfort, brick by careful brick. As I passed her desk, she looked up from her screen and offered a chirpy, "Good morning, Lisa." My smile never wavered. Morning. I didn't stop. I didn't ask how her weekend went. I didn't even flinch. And that was the first brick removed. You see, Elena wasn't used to not being the center of someone's universe. She thrived on attention, even if it was negative. But now, I gave her nothing. Over the next week, phase 2 began. I started with little things. For one, I made myself incredibly useful to our boss. Not in a fake, brown-nosing way. I just worked smarter, came in earlier, stayed a little later, finished reports before they were asked for, anticipated issues and offered solutions in meetings. I became indispensable without making a scene. Meanwhile, Elena kept coasting. She'd been riding on charm and empty promises for years. And it showed. The more competent I looked, the more glaring her incompetence became. And the office? It noticed. I didn't gossip. I didn't whisper about what she did. I didn't bring up the affair. But I didn't need to. People talk. And when they don't have answers, they fill in the blanks themselves. All I had to do was let the silence grow. Then came the emails. I CC'd her on everything. Every minor update. Every tiny request. Every project timeline. Not because I needed to, but because it made her responsible. Every inbox ping she got with my name on it chipped at her sanity. She knew I was watching. Knew I was documenting. Knew that if she slipped up, it was going to be visible. By week 3, she started slipping. Missing deadlines. Sending incorrect data. Blaming others. And our boss. He started to notice. I didn't gloat. I simply offered to fix the mistakes. Quietly. Efficiently. The resentment started to boil over for her. She sent me a snippy message one afternoon, something passive-aggressive about me, double-checking her work like a hall monitor. I replied with a smiley face. Smiley face. She lost it. That was the first real crack. She barged into the conference room where I was reviewing quarterly numbers with the finance team. "Do you have a problem with me, Lisa?" The room fell silent. I blinked. "No, Elena. Why do you ask?" She sputtered. "You're always watching. You CC me on everything. You micromanage." I turned back to the finance director. Just trying to keep everyone informed and in sync as per new internal policy. Which, by the way, was real. I had suggested it the previous week to our boss under the guise of increasing cross-departmental transparency. Approved. Rolled out. Effective immediately. Elena looked around. No allies. No support. Just awkward glances. She stormed out. The moment she left, I smiled again. Not because I won, but because she cracked in public. And once people saw a crack, they never stopped looking. Later that day, I started phase 3. Asked our boss if I could mentor the new intern, Ashley. Ashley was brilliant, young, observant, and most importantly, she hated bullshit. I didn't tell her anything about Elena. I didn't need to. I just modeled professionalism and let Ashley form her own opinions. Within 2 days, Ashley was venting to me over lunch about Elena's laziness, how she passed off work, how she took credit for others' ideas. I just nodded. Interesting. Then I let Ashley talk about it in meetings. Let her shine a little spotlight in the corners Elena wanted to keep hidden. It wasn't cruel. It was tactical. Meanwhile, I continued the quiet campaign. Perfect files, punctuality, calm demeanor. When Elena tried to bait me with snide comments in the break room, I responded with grace. "You're always so put together," she'd say, voice dripping with sarcasm. "Thank you," I'd smile. "It helps to sleep well at night." More cracks. She complained to HR about a hostile work environment. HR called me in. "Lisa, someone reported feeling targeted by you." I blinked innocently. "Oh, I hope I haven't made anyone uncomfortable. I always try to be professional. Would you like me to be less proactive? Or stop CCNG updates?" I was just following the internal policy. They had nothing. It was all too clean. Elena got written up instead. The final straw came a month later. Our company was hosting a client-facing event. A big deal. Lots of press. High-profile stakeholders. I was placed in charge of organizing it. Elena begged to help. To rebuild her image, she said. I said yes. But I assigned her to logistics, details, vendor management. And then I sat back and waited. The night of the event, she forgot to confirm the catering arrival. The food showed up 2 hours late. Guess who everyone blamed?
Not me.
I had the emails, the timelines, the calendar reminders. She was the only missing link. That night, our boss pulled her aside. I don't know what was said exactly, but she didn't come into work for a week after that. When she finally returned, she was quiet, hollow-eyed, her laughter gone. I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. I just returned to my desk, opened my laptop, and typed another flawless report. Because revenge? It doesn't always need to be loud. Sometimes the sweetest justice is silence, execution, precision, and the knowledge that she wakes up every morning knowing she lost to the girl she once thought was too soft to fight back. Lisa, the girl who didn't raise her voice, the girl who weaponized grace. After what happened in the HR room, something inside me flipped. Not in a dramatic movie style, hero gets a makeover and crushes her enemy's way, but in a quiet, slow, creeping realization that I was done playing fair. I had been too polite, too quiet, too afraid of being seen as vindictive or bitter. But bitterness isn't always the poison people think it is. Sometimes, it's the fuel you need to finally stop shrinking. I stopped eating lunch at my desk. That was the first move. No more hiding. Instead, I walked into the common lounge every day, took my place at the center table, and pulled out a book. Not a phone. Not a laptop. A hardcover novel that said, "I'm comfortable here, and I dare you to interrupt me." The first few days, she avoided eye contact.
Good.
I wanted her to see me thriving, or at least looking like I was. The married guy she cheated with had vanished, moved cities, and she was alone now. Rumors had begun circulating already. Office people talk. It's what they do. But I wanted more than whispers.
So I started phase 3.
A whisper campaign of my own. I never lied. That was important. I didn't need to. The truth, in the right tone, was devastating enough. I simply started talking to people I had previously avoided because she made sure they avoided me. The moment people saw I was still standing, still working, and still kind, they opened up. "You know, Lisa, One of the interns said to me over lunch, "I used to think you were really cold, but I think you were just surviving." I smiled. That's a fair observation. Survival mode doesn't look good on anyone. Then I let a pause hang. But I'm not in survival mode anymore. People remember lines like that. And it began. My image slowly morphed in the minds of coworkers. From cold and aloof to composed and quietly strong. Meanwhile, her mask slipped a little more each day. She'd make passive-aggressive comments in meetings. Things like, "Oh, I thought we agreed that marketing would take care of that, right, Lisa?" Or, "Well, maybe some people have more time than others." But I never took the bait. Instead, I would tilt my head slightly, smile like I pitied her, and calmly correct the record with facts.
She hated that.
The calm, the smile, the proof. Nothing infuriates a manipulator more than not getting the reaction they want. I stopped responding to her in private chats. Everything had to be over email. Professional. Transparent.
Cold.
I began complimenting her publicly.
Sparingly. Strategically.
That's a great idea, Jenna. Let's note that in the meeting minutes. Or, that was a smart call last week. Good instincts. It wasn't about being kind. It was about framing. I wanted to redefine the power dynamic in every room we were in together. She wanted drama. I gave her applause, but always on my terms. Then came the project switch. We both got assigned to the same cross-functional initiative, one that involved weekly check-ins with senior management. She was thrilled, thinking she could one-up me and win back control. But I was 10 steps ahead. I had already spoken to the project manager weeks prior, expressing my enthusiasm and gently dropping, "I know there's been tension in the past, but I'm committed to making this work smoothly."
He was sold.
After that, I started sending weekly recap emails after every project meeting, copying the entire leadership chain. Detailed.
Polished.
Neutral. I used phrases like, "As Jenna mentioned, we might want to revisit our approach to the client timeline." Per Jenna's insight, I've attached an alternate workflow that could address her concern. On the surface?
Praise.
Underneath? Needles. Because each time, I reframed her chaotic, unprepared thoughts as concerns. Framed myself as the facilitator, the adult in the room. Her comments became mine. Her ideas, slightly reshaped and better executed, were mine too. I saw the shift in the room. How the VPs started addressing me first. How Jenna began sitting further from the screen. How her voice started losing volume. And then I got my promotion. Not a huge leap, but enough. A new title. A new office. And the cherry on top? I was now in charge of performance reviews for our department, including hers. I kept my review clinical, focused on documented facts. Missed deadlines. Poor communication. Lack of team collaboration. No emotion. Just data. When she read it, she stormed into my office. Slammed the door. "Are you kidding me? After everything we've been through, this is how you repay me?" I looked at her. "Jenna, I reviewed your work, not our history." She went pale. She left. I never saw her cry, but I saw something worse. That vacant, stunned look of someone who just realized they lost.
Not loudly.
Not with a fight, but slowly, quietly, until the ground under their feet crumbled and they didn't even notice. She put in her transfer 2 weeks later. Requested a different branch. She said she needed a fresh start. I hope she gets it. But here, this chapter is mine now. Because revenge doesn't always look like fire. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like peace. Sometimes it looks like a woman sitting at the center table of the break room, eating her lunch and smiling. And sometimes that woman's name is Lisa. Stay tuned for the next episode. And if you've ever been betrayed, underestimated, or quietly written off, subscribe. Lisa's not done. Not even close. The final act wasn't loud. It wasn't violent. It wasn't even obvious at first. Lisa had learned long ago that real power wasn't in shouting, crying, or even confronting someone face to face. It was in controlling the story.
Quietly, strategically, permanently.
And so, the final move began in silence. By the time November rolled around, Lisa had spent nearly a full year reshaping every angle of her professional world. Everyone at the office saw her as the one who kept things running. She solved client issues before they became problems. She mentored new hires with grace and patience. She showed up early, stayed late, and made herself indispensable. But behind the scenes, she was still the Lisa who had been betrayed. Still the woman who had watched her ex, and the married man who discarded her like trash, waltz through the office like nothing had happened. Only now, she was in control. Because the final move was never about a single, flashy moment. It was about building something so carefully, so elegantly, that when it struck, it left nothing but scorched earth behind for those who crossed her. It started with a job opening. A new department was being formed at HQ, higher pay, more exposure. A position where Lisa could work directly under the regional VP. Everyone wanted it, including her ex. But Lisa already knew who would get it. Because Lisa had already been asked to take it months ago. She turned it down at first, under the pretense of loyalty to her branch. But in reality, she wanted to weaponize it. So, she made sure her ex caught wind of the opportunity. Let him believe it was a shot to rise again, to distract himself from the shattered leftovers of his affair. He prepped for it like a man possessed. Bought a new suit. Bragged to their coworkers. Even hinted at a fresh start, like all sins could be erased by a new job title. When the interview date was announced, Lisa waited. And waited. Until the day before. Then, she walked into her manager's office, closed the door, and quietly accepted the promotion. Her manager was thrilled. HR processed the change immediately. Her name was already being updated in the internal portal. But Lisa didn't tell anyone. Not until the next morning. That morning, she arrived earlier than usual. Coffee in hand.
Calm. Polished.
Smiling. As she passed by her ex's desk, she could see the anxiety in his face. He was dressed to impress, folder clutched tightly in his hand, mentally rehearsing every bullet point he'd spent weeks memorizing. "Good luck," she said casually, walking past him like he was a ghost. 10 minutes later, the announcement hit the inbox of every employee in the company. "We're pleased to announce Lisa A. will be joining our HQ team as Associate Director of Strategic Development." She didn't have to watch his face. She didn't need to hear the gasps from the desks around her. She simply stood in the break room, sipping her coffee, while the office erupted into whispers. He never went to that interview. He never said a word to her again. He was transferred 2 months later to a satellite office 2 cities away. But Lisa wasn't finished. There was still the woman. The one who walked in every day without remorse, as if Lisa had never mattered. Who never apologized. Never flinched. Who sat in meetings smirking, as if she still had the upper hand. So Lisa gave her one final gift. She hosted a seminar. Just before her transfer, the company had asked her to lead a session on workplace integrity and ethical leadership. And she said yes.
Happily.
It was mandatory attendance. Every team member had to be there. The presentation was tasteful, professional,
Perfect.
and in one particular section, she addressed professional boundaries and internal conduct policies. Without names, without malice, but with bullet points that listed behavior shockingly similar to the scandal that had rippled through their branch a year prior.
Gossip.
Affairs. Ethics violations. Everyone in that room knew. Everyone turned to look at the woman who'd once laughed at Lisa's pain. And for the first time ever, Lisa saw regret in her eyes. It was fleeting, but it was there. On Lisa's final day, she packed slowly. Her new office was waiting for her, twice the size of her old one. Her name would be on the door. Her salary would triple in a year. She was done playing defense. And just before she left, she printed one final document. A letter. Folded neatly. Sealed in an envelope. Placed in the woman's desk drawer.
It read,
"You never apologized. But I no longer need one. Because I won. I won the war you never saw coming.
"You took something from me.
And I turned it into everything you'll never have. No hard feelings. But don't ever mistake my silence for weakness again. Lisa. That was 6 months ago. Today, Lisa walks into her HQ.